Hi everyone, today I'll be sharing my secret to acing my law exams. But I have to disclaim everything first because I didn't get A for every single exam. I'll just be sharing a personal strategy that I feel generally works for most papers if and assuming that you have time to actually implement this strategy. So here goes. I think the first point that every law student needs to know is what to write in an exam. The exams are usually hypothetical scenarios or short questions which are like small hypos. So the first point on knowing what to write, essentially you have to point out the issue and then state the law and apply the law. Just briefly, issue means that you have to identify what is the legal issue in this case. Like, for example, let's say if we are considering contract law, an issue could be like, was the contract even formed? Was there offer? Was there an acceptance? Was there consideration? So these are legal issues based on the topic at hand. So of course, I'm already assuming that you have studied your topic and roughly know what the legal issues are, because if you don't know what the legal issues are, then it's very difficult for you to spot the issue when you look at the hypo. And the issues will tend to be linked to the topics under that mod. An example of the topics would be formation of contract, implication of terms, or factors that may cause a contract to be null and void, and damages. So it's like all these are broad topics that you should have at the back of your mind so that you can spot the legal issue in the hypothetical. And notice that I put prof's opinion under law and under applying or arguing. This is closely linked to my second point, which I shall go into now. It's super important to understand your prof. I think as much as law school is supposed to promote independent thinking and all, yes, you should think independently, think creatively, think logically, and analyze the issue yourself. But what I feel in terms of exams is that you should try to stick to your prof's opinion, because it's so hard to convince someone if they believe something that is completely opposite from you. And also because they know the law better and they know other areas of law better, it's more likely than not that whatever opinion you have may be lacking in some sense. Like you may think that, wow, your opinion makes a lot of sense, but maybe it's because you don't know this certain area of law that your prof knows about or that your prof has read about or studied about. So I think to be safe in the exam, it's better to write your prof's opinion. And this comes in both like when you're stating the law and when you're applying the law. Because when you're stating the law, this is only for situations where the law is unclear. So like for instance, if one case said that, okay, you need these 3 elements, but another case said that no, maybe the 3rd element is not necessary, it's very likely that in class your prof would have initiated a discussion on which case should be the correct position. And when your prof is saying his or her opinion, this is what you should take down, because this is what you should probably also put down in your exam. And when it comes to applying, sometimes prof also do share what they think the conclusion should have been. So you should pay attention to what your prof say about the case and the holding of the case. So usually, I would say that people are happy when you say something that is exactly on their minds, right? It's as though you read their minds, but actually they already told you their opinion. But I do notice that some of my friends don't even catch that, or they think that it's just irrelevant points. I think if you include that in, then I feel that as a prof, reading their opinion on your paper, they will just tend to be more convinced and feel like, okay, yeah, this student has got it right, understood the question and understood the issue and analysed it exactly the way they think that it should be analysed. So that's my pro tip. My last point is a more spiritual point, so if you're not Christian, then I think you can skip through it. But basically, it's the idea of surrender and just not striving and not stressing out over the outcome of your paper. And I say this from experience because I think when I was in year 1 or year 2, I was very focused on ensuring that I did all my readings, that I read through all the cases, and I got all my legal principles correct. Essentially, I was very flustered because I always had no time to finish all my readings and to prepare all my notes properly. Some of my notes would either be incomplete or very shabby. There were points in time where I felt like I was completely not prepared for the exam. So I wrote down conflicts of law. It was because this paper was particularly horrifying. I remember there were 3 hypo questions in my year and I essentially only finished 2 and 1/4 of it. So essentially the last question was almost blank. I didn't catch most of the issues. I didn't have time to even go through the issues or analyze them. And I was thinking, I don't know how the prof is going to mark. And in the end, I think overall I still got an A- for the mod. So I would say that this to me is already a miracle, and it shows me that God is actually really working. It's not about how hard I strive or how much I do. It's more like whether I surrender the situation and my difficulties and struggles to Him. And when I did surrender and when I told God that, you know, I tried my best, but maybe I didn't prepare my notes well enough, I didn't have time to make sure that I practiced all the practice papers, and so I wasn't 100% prepared, but allowed God to enter the situation and take control of the situation. It's in this posture of surrender when I felt that God really did intervene. I know it sounds very ridiculous and unbelievable, but this was not the only module that I really felt God's presence and felt that He intervened. There were also other modules that I did in my other degree, where I literally only started studying the night before the exam because of the lack of time. Just the way the questions were crafted, it really felt like God knew that I needed help. He knew what I knew and He knew what I wouldn't know. And it just so happened that the questions were questions that I knew the answers to, even though I probably didn't study like 80% of the syllabus. At times, it is about surrendering. And this also impacts the way you face a difficult question in the exam. Because usually when you start panicking in the exam is when your thinking slows down, your sharpness slows down, and you start not writing the correct answer. Sometimes it's when you call out to God and when you feel a sense of peace, and a sense of knowing that God is in control, that you will be able to write the best answer also. Yeah, so I hope that my little sharing helps, and don't forget to study your prof too. I really find that it's one of the most important things in SMU, especially because the prof who sets the paper is the prof who teaches you. So just take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that you get the opportunity to understand your prof's preference in terms of answers, in terms of expectations, character, because all these will influence the way they set questions, the kind of questions they set, and the way they mark your papers as well. It sounds very fluffy, but trust me that if you start to observe all these things, you'll realize that they really do influence your grades in one way or another. Hope that all of you are still keeping yourself together amidst this COVID situation, and have a very lovely week. Bye! See you in my next video.